Okay. Hello, guys.
Hi, hello, everybody. Hi.
Hi, Nicola, I can see you. Welcome. Babajide, welcome. Toyosi, hi. We are trying to find Toyosi's face. Okay, we can see Toyosi's face. I'm trying to play some cool music before we have some of our attendees join us. So if you don't mind, let's take some 2 minutes more. Don't worry, I'm playing Spyro, who is your guy, so I feel like everybody here, maybe except Nicola, is going to enjoy it.
Yeah, of course. I was struggling, to be honest. We had some Zoom updates, or whatever. I was struggling with that one. And we have a huge thunderstorm in the background, so.
I have to admit, though, before we start, that our panelist is like really interesting. We have someone from Energy. We have someone from Babajide. I don't know where Babajide is coming from, because Babajide is what we call an operator, an executor in Nigeria. So in street language, Babajide is an idon. Nicola, you may not understand it, so I'll explain to you later. But Babajide cuts across consulting and really everything that has to do with operations, right? Toyosi cuts across consulting, HR, payroll. He's in the energy sector now. Where am I? I cut across consulting and fintech too, but Nicola is here, and Nicola also cuts across several other sectors. So it's really going to be interesting today, because we have people who will be speaking from several sectors, representing both the companies and the individuals themselves. And we also have people who will be representing, Nicola, of course, will be representing the people from, over there on how payroll management works and all of that. I think we can start. What do we think? I think we can
I'm
start.
good.
This is
ready.
Past time. Okay, my name is Jessica, and I'll be your host for today. I promise you, I'm going to try to make it as fun as possible. So please feel free to laugh when I try to make a joke. Why are we having this webinar? A whole lot of the companies we talk to share the challenges they have with navigating payroll across borders. So what remote work, COVID, in a way has done is companies now see that they can expand beyond where their headquarters is without even having to have, physical office, being registered as entities. And so they go ahead to hire people in these places who are doing the expansion and the job without entities. But of course, these people have to be paid in wherever they are in whatever currency their salaries were negotiated in. And of course, someone has to do the remittances for them. So a whole lot of companies we talk to share how they have challenges with this because, of course, per country, per continent, it is different navigating payroll and local compliance. So we decided to have this one where we are going to have you, my panelists, my awesome panelists, share how this is, what it is supposed to be like per country, and if you decide to cross the borders, what it is going to be like. I know I did a bit of insight on my panelists, but I would really want you guys to introduce yourself because I can't cover it. The only thing I'm going to say is we have my co-founder and VP of Commercials joining us from Macedonia here. Nicola, thank you very much for doing this one. We really appreciate it. I have Babajide joining us from, Babajide, how many countries are you in? Because I don't even, I don't know.
For now, Lagos, Nigeria. So let's keep it at that.
Babajide is joining us from Lagos, Nigeria. Toyosi is also joining us from Lagos, Nigeria. So let's start with Babajide, please. So just tell us, in 30 seconds, a bit about yourself. Then from Babajide, we'll go to Toyosi and then come back to Nicola.
Who am I? My name is Babajide Duroshola. I typically tell people I'm a dad first. So in everything that I do, I'm like a dad first. And then on my side hustle, I oversee a Pan-African startup, the Nigerian operation for a Pan-African startup called Mkopa. Mkopa is a fintech company that provides credits to the underserved market. And so my experience cuts across operations, marketing, CC, HR, finance, sales, retail, and the likes. Prior to that, I worked with Safeboda as the country director to bring Safeboda into Nigeria. And then I've had brief stints in Andela. I've had stints in Access Bank and with Philips Consulting, where I started my career. So yeah, that's who I am in a nutshell. Excited to be here.
I wish I could say that's who I am in a nutshell, but Babajide, thank you. We are super grateful to have you. That's a huge portfolio, but we'll come back to that. So Toyosi, hi, over to you.
Hi everyone, good to be here. Okay, so my name is Toyosi Alada. I'm an HR professional and I specialize in compensation and benefits. Basically, practiced compensation and benefits in consulting, in manufacturing, in fintech, right? And I managed not only Nigerian payroll, I would say West Africa and emerging markets, right? And currently I'm in the energy sector, specifically NNPC retail. So we basically manage the retail arm of the NNPC business. So, right. Of course, in my current role, I also do on the remuneration and benefits.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Toyosi, thank you for joining us. There's this joke on Twitter, I'm sure Babajide is aware. They said to leave the fintech bros and focus on the energy bros. So we are glad that someone is here representing the energy sector for us. Nicola, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jessica. First of all, great initiative, and I love webinars, to be honest. Long time that I wasn't part of one, so great initiative. So yeah, I'm Nikola Bubevski, coming from Macedonia, as Jessica announced. I'm the co-founder and VP of Commerce at Native Teams. And in a nutshell, what we do is global employment and payments as a platform, currently available in 55 plus countries, but that number goes up every day. So I will stick with 55. When it comes to my background and how everything went, I think that throughout the conversation, I will give you more insights on that one.
Awesome. So we are good to go, but just to reiterate, the reason we are having this webinar is because we have encountered over time people sharing compensation, payroll specialists sharing the challenges they have with handling payroll across borders in this situation from Nigeria to Kenya, Rwanda, Macedonia, everywhere, Philippines, right? What remote work has done is companies are now able to hire from everywhere in the world. People don't have to see themselves, but when you hire people, you're supposed to give them contracts. And even if you do not give them contract and you hire them as contractors, you still have to pay them and do some remittances dependent on the country they are in. So if you're a HR person or a payroll specialist in Nigeria, you may not really understand until you join a company that has, several international employees, and then you have to start struggling with handling their payroll, all of the calculations, and ensuring that the company does not run into trouble because of things like this. So that's what we'll be discussing. So I'm just going to go straight. This one, I'm coming to Babajide for it, right? For starters, what are the key considerations, right, in terms of payroll and compliance and benefits, and what are the key considerations that, i.e., if your company is Nigerian, I expect you already understand how it works in Nigeria, but how do you transcend above Nigeria to ensure that you are as compliant as you are in Nigeria in all other countries that you have employees in?
It's like, how did we even get here? As the world became a global village, because I think that's what really spurred this type of movement, where workers were not limited by geographical borders anymore. So you could have a situation whereby someone sat in Lagos, Nigeria, and worked for a company that was resident in Macedonia. And these are things that we are beginning to see over and over again. While immigration has still not caught up, the ways of working has gone way beyond, or you must be a resident in the country that you are in. What happens now is the talent market is so wide now, is so expansive that, you can hire people from anywhere across the world. And this then now poses the challenge that you start to have, because, if we had a worldview system of like, this is what payroll should look like, it would have just been easier. You do one source, send it to everybody, and then, one government, and you put it. But with multiple countries, many countries, both the tax filing system, both the percentages of the filing system and other statutory deductions differ too as well. So take, for instance, in a place like when you look at Nigeria, and I'll use many of like just African markets as a starter, then we'll do like the UK. Like in Nigeria, you have a graduated tax system, which, goes from about like 7% to about 24%, depending on your income level too as well. Aside that, you then now have things like statutory deductions, which is the NHF, which for the housing fund, which is the pension contribution that the employer has to do. You have the ITF too as well, which is another one that is very, very interesting. And these are all the statutory deductions. When you typically talk to employees and people are signing offer letters, they only look at the gross pay and the other perks and benefits. But as a company, you look at everything from the total reward system on like, what is the entire cost to company that is required for me as Babajide, Duroshola and Sons, how much would it cost me to hire Jessica? And so all that statutory deduction is where things start to get tricky and funny, because across different countries and employee levels, you start to see the differences too as well. So having a solution that allows you to, as a company, to say, okay, I don't want to necessarily worry about all these payrolls, the remittances, how they get there, how people file their taxes, how they do the returns, and how I am going to also get the documentation that this has been done, then starts to bring out solutions where, companies like Native Teams can actually come in to plug that gap. So it starts from the initial point whereby global workforce has become a thing. People work, you have distributed teams, you have distributed colleagues. I remember when the concept of distributed teams was something in 2015, 2016, back in my time at Andela, where we were saying, oh, you have distributed teams. And I had my line manager sat in New York. I was in Lagos. My colleague was in Uganda. Another one was in Kenya. We had someone in Rwanda. And, you just had people all over the place, and people had to get paid, because at the end of the day, what happens in the job place is everyone is trading their skill for income. And
Yeah.
they don't want a situation whereby, you find out that the employer has kind of shafted them. After deducting taxes, they don't remit the taxes on as well. They don't even remit it on time, because, these are where all the issues and intricacies come. In Nigeria, they give you a deadline till, I think, 15th of the next month. In
Yes.
some other countries, by the 2nd of the following month, you must have done all your tax filings. You must have, submitted all the vouchers that are needed and things like that. And so those things add complexities to the business, because if you had one payroll manager or a payroll team and they were sitting in Lagos and they had to pay someone in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, they had to pay another person in the UK too as well, while also filing all the statutory deductions, whether it is tax, whether it is the NHF, or whether it is the ITF, or whether it is even the 401k, which is pension too as well. And so these things cause a lot of intricacies and complexities, especially for like global HR or payroll professionals. And so, yeah, this is why we're where we are today.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Bajide. Awesome insights. I picked a couple things which I've seen people discuss, the fact of making deductions on the part of the company, but not actually remitting it. The aspect of people not getting their pay slips, so they do not even know what is happening at the part of deduction, but that is definitely one we are going to come back to. Nicola, I'm just going to ask this one just to add to what Babajide said, because he mentioned native teams as coming to plug in for things like this. So do you mind sharing how the how native teams came to be? Because it's actually like a very interesting story, and I'm sure by the time we hear it, we will understand why I'm asking him to share the story. Nicola.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Jessica. So in general, in couple of words, and I can expand on this, it's based on a problem. So we were freelancing and we were working as a remote workers from different regions. And suddenly we came into a problem, and our company back then came to a problem where, as Babaji said, we didn't have the knowledge or the compliance to pay out everybody and offer all of the benefits from the full-time employment. So back then it was just like freelancing, you get one-time payments in your local country. And we were back then in, I think, 7 countries. As a team, we were working on a different projects, but under the same umbrella, let's call it like that. And soon enough, we asked Jack for the option, and Jack is the founder of the company, to help us with creating an entity. And suddenly with those entities from 1, they became 7 entities. And we realized that we solved a huge problem for ourselves, and not just for ourselves, but for our peers as well. So a lot of freelancers and people that we know in our close circles, they were asking for a favor on how you guys are compliant, how can I get the EOR, which stands for employer of record, and how can we be under a certain company and have all the employment rights. And then we suddenly thought, okay, this is something that the world is missing out of. We started to rethinking the way we get paid, and yeah, that's how native teams came out. So currently, from those 7 countries that we were available, we came to 55.
Interesting. So Nicola, it's more like you solve the problem for the company, and you realize that I think Baba, they will call it here selling your, you solve a problem for yourself, and then you start selling the solution to your problem to other people, and that's how the company was birthed. Interesting. I mean, every time I hear that story, it's really interesting for me because for Nigeria, I may not understand it because we don't really, the official employment status is not as important as it is, over there, because over there you need it for loans. You even need to identify with government as someone who is working for an entity. And for you to have that, you have to have the EOR, you have to have someone filing your tax returns, on behalf of you. Nicola, thanks for sharing that. Toyosi, I'm coming to you for this one, right? And I love that you mentioned that you guys service NNPC, which is like a very huge one. So how do you manage these several currencies that you have to make these payments in? For example, Toyosi, we're in Nigeria. Let's be frank, we understand what the FX is like in Nigeria. So there's FX on Google rates, and there's FX at the black market rate. And then there is FX rates that your HR insists they want to use, which is somewhere in between the one on Google and, the one obtainable at the black market. Now, that is just Nigeria. I'm not even fully certain how this is in Kenya, how it is in Rwanda, how it is in Morocco, all of that. So how do you reconcile all of this? Again, points in notes is I have a remote worker who came to me recently. In his claim, his company pays him in USD, then the PEO company pays him using the official Google rate, and he's pissed, right? But how does he go back to his company? And this reflects in remitting pension and and tax and all of that. It's being remitted at the Google rate, which we all know here in Nigeria, that's not obtainable. So how do you handle this to yourself? And if this was your employee, sort of, how are you going to address the situation? Toyosi, you're muted. I'm not. Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. So yeah, it's an interesting one because I've had to deal with this a couple of times. While in the manufacturing space, where we had a number of experts, right, who were working with us in Nigeria, and some of them who were working remotely, Indians, Pakistanis, I think Turkish at some point, right? And it was difficult, first of all, to even agree on the numbers and the offer letter for them, right? Because we would convert our their currency to naira, and we look at the cost to company, and it just would not make sense to us, right? We would send to them, and then they would convert to their currency, and it's just not.
And they will probably come back and reject it. Yeah.
Of course, yes. So I mean, we had to. So that's just to agree on numbers and offer letter. And then they come in, and then we have issues with remittances of their statutories, of their salaries, right? Sometimes there were days that, there were months that it would take us 2 months for us to source for dollars, to source for FX before we then pay them, right? And at some point, what we resorted to doing was we created sort of a Naira account for them. So there was so we created sort of a Naira account for them. Would use the prevailing rate in that month, right, to calculate their salaries. But because of course they insisted their salary on the offer letters should be in their currency, right? It's either in their currency or we agree on using dollars, which is the globally acceptable currency, right? So we created like a Naira account for them. We would convert the salaries into Naira, put in their Naira account, and then whatever obligations they have to sort in Nigeria, they use the Naira account to sort. Because some of them, they were usually like they'll go to India 2 months, come back to Nigeria a month. But they had some obligations in Nigeria. Some right? So what we did was to create that account for them, so we would have the naira in their naira account, and when we are able to source for FX, right, then we then convert for them.
So
Right.
you mean they were paid in the dominant or in the currency of the country that employs them?
Yes.
Or they also have the option of, getting this money, sending this money out to the currency that is spent in whatever country that they are in?
Yes, right. The other way was for us to have an agreement around FX, right? So we had an agreement on the exchange rate to use, whether to use the CBN or the black market rates. But I mean, it was a lot because of currency fluctuations, right? So it's basically to have like a Naira account here, remit everything into the Naira account, and then when we're able to sort our FX issues, we'll then clear. So that's what we do. But I mean, it's a lot of administrative stress.
I was
right?
coming to that, curiosity. I can't imagine what it's like for you every month. If you have to calculate, I mean, what you pay them this month in Naira is definitely not what you're going to pay them next month. And
Exactly.
for a company as huge as NNPC, I want to say I don't want to be in your shoes, but well done. You're doing a great job. So I'm going to take it from there and ask Babajide this one. Babajide, if you were in Toyos's situation, frankly, what would you do differently? I mean, it's in a way easy to create entities in business entities in Nigeria, but it's not the same for other countries. And if they had entities in other countries, it would be easier to do this. But it's not beans, in quotes, to create entities in these countries. And so he has to battle with all of this. And every single month, he has thousands of people to do this for. What would you do differently? And what do you think would be like a solution around this? Because I'm sure it's not just Toyosi that is going through this.
That I held was a HR business partner. So I was an HR business partner for like one of the divisions in the bank, and we're responsible for recruiting senior business advisors. So they were typically expatriates who come into Nigeria, live in Nigeria, but they didn't want to get paid in Naira because their family were in those countries and things like that. So we structured their salary that say, okay, you were going to get £100,000 a year or £150,000 a year. And then we're going to give you like a Naira stipend, which is like a living allowance in the country where you were spending there, because it was becoming too much of mental gymnastics to start changing the FX rate, doing the deductions and all that. So we're like, hey, you cannot be a full-time employee. What you can instead do is you can be a contractor where we'll just remit, 5% withholding tax, withholding taxes for you. And we had to start getting creative at that point in time to say, we charge you 5% withholding tax. We'll be responsible for disbursing the money to you in your home country. So you give us a home country bank account. Good thing about it was that we worked in a bank and the bank had access to the FX. So there are so many legs to it aside from the FX and all those things like that. There is also the taxation and how you then now try to start beats that. Then this person goes to their own home country and they are having problems too as well, because yes, you are not living there. The good thing is some people weren't living there, but you're getting your payments in the home country. It's very difficult for you to explain to your government that you are not in the country.
Where the money comes from. Yes.
Yeah, you're not in the country, but on a monthly basis, you're getting credit alerts coming into your bank account. And so the mental gymnastics was a lot and was crazy back then. But we did find a way around it. Today, we still have people who have those kind of issues. So today you select it and you say, you know what, I'll pay you in USD. But on the statutory side, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to use the CBN rate as the official rate on the USD. So every statutory deduction will be made based off of that CBN rate. But you, as the recipient, you're going to receive your USD. I will pay the government in Naira based off of the CBN rate. I will pay your pension in Naira based off of the CBN rates, for instance. And so you see a lot of mental gymnastics still going around just to sort it. And then, like Toyosi did rightly mentioned, it now comes to a point where you now need to actually pay the dollar. And you find out that you cannot transfer money from GT Bank to Access Bank USD because it's a problem. So you then now have to go and tell the employee you need to open a bank account in the company's bank so that we can be doing the transfers too as well. And think of that employee goes to 3 different banks. He has like 4 different USD domiciliary accounts and things like that. So there is so much work around that is still being done in solving this kind of issue, especially around like disbursing of the payment, filing the right statutory obligations too as well. And then that is just in Nigeria. You then now go to places where they are much more stringent in it. Like if you live in the US, regardless of the fact whether your income is generated outside, even if you get paid in Nigeria, you still have to file income taxes in the US too as well. Like all those things are like real. And you see, when I began this webinar, I said, I wish it was a situation whereby, you know, there was one payroll and you just say, hey, we send and to all the governments and everything is being handled and everybody collects their money and we all walk away.
I mean, but this is like a perfect point to sell native teams. I can, because everything we have been saying now, Toyosi, is simply, if you find a company who you can give all of this money, just they invoice you one invoice for everybody, and you just go and sit in your office and they remit it in whatever country, in whatever currency. If the Turkish employees prefer, we send them the Turkish, you get. If the person in UK wants pounds, we send them pounds. If the person in US wants dollar, if the person in Nigeria wants even dollars, we send them that. You know, one invoice, and it sorts all of this for you. It sorts all of the stress because they file all the tax returns and they of course upload it somewhere so that you also have access to it. Nicole, I'm going to bring this onto your desk because I feel like you're like the best person to sell this at this point. You have heard what Babajide said and what Toyosi said. So what do you think native teams can literally do to save all of this stress, especially for big companies? Because if you can handle this for 10 to 15 people, fine. But when you start having a team of 50, 100, 1,000, over 1,000 for Toyosi's case, what do you do in situations like that? How can you do this seamlessly and still remain sane, you know, as a HR and payroll specialist?
Yeah. So what I heard just caused flashbacks to my head. It was like all of the struggles that we had, like learning all the local labor laws and taxation and different currencies and how different payslips work and how different countries have different legislations in terms of, I don't know, working hours, labor days, payouts, deadlines, taxations and everything. So we kind of did the manual work in the back office, and we kind of found the solution which every finance team would like to have. As you mentioned, Jessica, only one invoice. Native team sends you only one invoice. Your finance team gets that invoice gets paid, and then what happens after that in that centralized system of a multi-currency wallet, everybody is getting paid locally based on their local payroll system and payroll, of course, rules and laws. And at the end of the day, your finance team, and especially for bigger companies, they're having everything in a one single file or documents where you can check is everybody health insurance paid or retirement funds or whatever. So our system in general works in a certain way that helps bigger multinational companies to work in multi-currencies and to have everybody employed as local. That was the goal since the beginning. That's the road that we want to take. So we want to have the opportunity, or everybody in the world to have the opportunity to work without borders while they're paying locally and they're employed locally. So one of the solution and what we've built, as I've mentioned earlier, was that multi-currency wallet, which really helps within one single system and app to transfer to the local currency, but also all the local knowledge. So one of the key factors that you cannot see on the app and you cannot see until you start working with us is the local knowledge, because you can send the money with a bank transfer or wire transfer and so on, but what happens then? What are the papers around it? What's the admin stuff? How the back office works? What are the taxation system? And what are the, let's say, the consequences of not paying stuff? So when you have such a legal and finance team behind you locally on the ground, with fits on the ground, that changes the whole perspective on how you see the global market and talents, which also helped a lot.
Okay. Nicola, thank you very much. I'm coming back to what you said. Toyosi and Babajide, because you have, real life experience working with employees who have experienced all of this, what are the legal implications of not doing this? Because you can get so frustrated, we're trying to work out the parents, you can't say I'm not doing it again. You have to do it, because if you do not do it, I'm sorry, imagine having 50 to 100 or 1,000 people coming for your head because you have not done it. And then the law, there's the Lagos state government, very soon they will knock on your door. They will say, we are coming to visit you. And by the time they come to visit you, you're supposed to show your book. So Babajide, please tell us what are some of the implications of not doing this? Because we need to tell companies or share the implications so that you are aware, and if you're intentionally not being compliant, you just know that it's a matter of when. It's not a matter of if. And then after Babajide, we'll go to Toyosi, and then Nicola will tell us from the angle of the guys over there in the EU.
Suit, because like the moment 10, 15 of your employees come together and actually sue you because it's almost synonymous to fraud. These are things that are statutory and they are required, and you're not doing it. So first of all, I think it will even be in a crazy world where you don't even pay people's salary first. I'm not sure that. I'm not even sure there can even be a situation like that. But then even in the deductions and the remittances, so things like pension, because pension is still the employee's money. It's still is money for their future. And so sometimes, some employers will say, but, I'm not giving them the money. But this is money this individual is supposed to access at the age of 60. And you are basically cheating that person of their future. And so it's something that they can actually sue you for. The worst thing now is if you then now go and appear in front of employment court. If for the HR folks who are going to listen to this, the employment court, when you go there, they usually tell you that the employee has two lawyers, the judge and his defense lawyer, who is actually like filing the motion on their behalf. And so you have those issues. So on the employee side, then you then now go to the statutory body side. You have the issues of penalties for non-payment and non-compliance, because these are very, very serious issues. Governments run because people can pay taxes. And the moment you are not paying your taxes, basically you are shafting the government as well. Does anybody in the world like to pay taxes? No. Do we have to pay taxes? Yes. And so these are the very, very important aspects of it, because when Lagos state government actually comes, if you've ever seen that thing, it's like a white sticker with like a whole bunch of notes on it, and they come and tell you that we are about to seal this organization because they've not remitted their taxes. This is after they've sent you.
Government can actually close down your business for tax evasion.
Yes, they can. They will close down your business. So if you ever go anywhere and you see there is a white sticker, and you see it's like the initial warning that the government puts, and it is there so that even your partners will know that, okay, this person is owing the government. So maybe if they can owe the government, maybe you need to be very careful of doing business with them.
If we get
And
another job.
yes, and it's posted at the entrance of your office. And guess what? Even if you pay your taxes and you get up to date, you can't remove it by yourself. You have to get the person who stuck it there to actually come and remove it, because it's an offense to actually to actually pull it out. So there are very, very big consequences for your business if you don't file these taxes. And this thing moves from tax to what you call it, to NHF, to even the ITF, which is the training fund. You might be like, okay, but we don't necessarily get any value for it. The major thing is, based off of the law of the land, these are statutory deductions that need to happen to as well. You're responsible for actually going to go and claim back vouchers from the ITF, that like, okay, yes, we've been remitting it, this is what it is. And with the NHF, part of the things people don't understand is you're also robbing the employee of their ability to access mortgages, because the NHF is a national housing fund. And what that does is someone who has contributed to that fund has access to go and actually take a mortgage of 25% of the 25%, I think, yes, of the amount that they want to use. And so these are where the problems typically stem out from. These are some of the issues and the liabilities and problems that will come. So it's not a case of would it is a case of when. Because at the end of the day, if you've not, even if you see, they seal organizations because of 10 years old back taxes. Like, you have employees 10 years ago, you did not pay taxes. You might be compliant this year, last year, 2020, you were compliant, but in 2015, you weren't compliant and you didn't pay those back taxes as well to the government. They would still actually come and seal your business. So the longer you wait, the more, or the further deep down the hole you're digging yourself into. And I would not advise any company to go down that route.
Babaji, thank you very much for sharing that. I'm hoping we have HR people here, perhaps some CEOs, so that as you're building and scaling your company, if you really want it to stay as long, you definitely do not want the government coming 10, 15 years down the line to, seal your company. Toyosi, if this is the situation, Babajide has mentioned tax evasion, right? But we also know that there is, should I call it tax shortchanging, where the employer does not remit fully what they are supposed to remit. So for example, you're supposed to pay this percentage because you're on this earning grade, but your employer remits taxes for a pay grade that is below what you actually earn. Have you experienced this, and what would be your advice, and what is actually the implication of doing this? Because I need to tell that person after this webinar that this is what this company is doing. This is what you can do. There's actually a law for or against it. So Theosi, please share with us.
Okay, thank you. As a payroll specialist, I have stories for days. Because also I remember I wanted to join, I was going to join a company some years back, right? So I mean, the interview was virtual, the offer letter, everything. I did not visit on site before I accepted the offer. So imagine my shock when I got to the office, right? It was in the manufacturing space, and I saw LRS sticker on the gates and in front of the reception hall. And I was like, I should have known this. Maybe I would have negotiated higher, right? And it was a lot because, so I found that they were under remitting taxes, right? That is PE particularly. I found that I think in some executives, years ago were paying their pensions into their private accounts and not into not remitted into their PFA, right? I found that NHF was non-existent, right? So they were not remitting NHF. NSITF was in shambles. I was basically brought in to quench a lot of fires, right? And so the first couple of months was basically me interfacing with LRS officials on tax fronts, was basically doing reconciliation of pension remittances about 11 years back, and trying to come up with the figures that the company would have to pay, right? Was me trying to engage NHF to come over and educate our people, get them on board to see the need to remit to remit NHF, and then so it was a lot of issues that we had at the time. And like Babajide said, it's on the side of the employees, when you know that you've been deducting taxes from my salary, right? And then I come on a Monday morning and I see an LRS flyer on our gate. So it means that you've been deducting, but you've not been remitting on my behalf, right? So it's a lot of demotivational. It's a demotivational factor for employees at the time. And on the other side, it's reputational damage for the company.
Yes.
In the sense that so let's say you want to bid for a contract with particularly like government agencies, your remittance certificate, so there's ITF remittance certificate, there's NSITF certificate, compliance certificate, there is tax compliance certificate, there is even PENCOM certificates, right? And these are some of the things that they would need you to tender before they even consider you for any contract award, right? So the company also was running at a loss on that side. And
so imagine what CBN said recently, right? That if you have to apply for Form A, you have to have your personal income tax certificate. So imagine you were earning and you thought your company was remitting everything, and then you needed Form A, and then you ask your company for tax certificate, and they're like, you find out they've not even been paying the tax. I feel at this point you can sue the company, because that's them derailing some part of your life, because they were not being compliant. So can this happen?
Yes. It's I mean, if you've not been remitting, and it is the responsibility of the HR personnel, right, to actually help you process the certificate on your behalf. But the HR personnel also know that the company has not been remitting accurately, and you know that unless you grease palms at the tax office, there's no way you are getting that, right? So I mean, the employee would come screaming, and if it is a unionized environment, right? If it is a unionized company or a space, it can lead to class action, right, against the company, right? And of course, loss of license. If you are in a rigorously regulated space, like in the fintech, right, and you are not able to tender your compliance certificate for all of these remittances, of course, it can lead to like loss of licenses, right? And the company can basically shut down, right? So what I've done in the past is basically so everywhere I get to, what I do first is to reconcile all the accounts, look at, okay, what are the shortfalls over a period of say 5-10 years. So it's part of what I do before I get confirmed anywhere, right? You do that to know, okay, so what are the liabilities of the company, and then we can then maybe tranche the repayments, right? That's one way to go about it. Another way to go about it is actually to negotiate. So as hard as difficult as these government agencies can get.
Did you say negotiate?
Yes, they can. They can also be very understanding. I've had to relate with LRS officials on about 3-4 occasions, right, where they sanctioned us about 35 million at some point.
Is it
or-
legal to
Yes,
negotiate? Ah,
yes,
interesting.
yes, absolutely. Because they would, so the way it works is that at the end of the year, you file your tax returns. Yeah, they look at the data that you supplied for the tax returns, and they use that to calculate their own taxes, right, as against yours. And then they look at the difference, and then they will slam you on top, right? So what you can do is basically get them in your room with you, explain how you came about all those taxes that you
Situation in the first place, yes.
Yes, explain how you came about the taxes that you filed, and then if you are lucky to get reasonable officials, right, they would actually be willing to listen to you, and then from there you can reduce the tax liabilities. It's not that it will be 100% gone, right, but at least you can reduce it significantly. Yeah.
If you get officers that are willing to listen to you, and they have the fear of God in them.
Well,
Okay.
I love
Okay, I'll
it.
keep.
I've been locking you once or twice. Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Toyosi, thank you for sharing. Nicola, at this point, I really want to ask you if businesses can be shut over there because of this. But there is one aspect I want to ask. If you are employed officially, you should, personal income tax, NHF, pension, all of that. However, if you are freelancing, right? How do you, like Babajide said, how do you save for your future, for your old age? How do you secure your old age in terms of pension? How do you, you can pay for HMO, right? But what of NHF? This is supposed to come from a company. An individual cannot go to NHF and say, I want to get NHF. Who are you? Are you an entity? NHF recognizes registered business entities, right? So, but the way the world is now, we have a lot of freelancers who are earning a lot of money, but they are not employed by a single organization. But these are things that they need. For example, if you need Form A, you need your personal income tax certificate. How do you pay personal income tax if you do not even have an official employer in the first place? So what are the ways to, work around this one? And I'm asking Babajide and I'm asking Nicola this one. So Nicola, let's start with you for the guys over, and then we'll come to Babajide for how it's going to work here in Nigeria and Africa as a whole.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Jessica, that's a whole new lifestyle. We call it lifestyle because those freelancers, they really don't want to stick with one employer, have the 9 to 5. They really like to be flexible, and they really work on different projects. And interestingly enough, sometimes they earn twice as much as somebody that is on a regular job position, which is really interesting. The problem with them and what we tried to fix is their constant flow. Constant cash flow. As you're freelancing, there are different projects where the money cycles can go up and down. Sometimes there are a lot of projects. There will be months where it will be a little bit of empty. What we've done and the feature that we named is actually rent a company, which means that with the whole EOR and EOR type of agencies and companies, you can then hire yourself. That means that you can set up your employment status under your country and have somebody as an agency, as native teams, to be covering that payroll for you while you can set up your own payroll. And what that allows you is for you to control your cash flow, but also stay compliant and cover everything. So why am I saying rent a company? Because in particular cases, depends on the country, really. It's country by country cases. Most of the countries, they're not aware and they don't have the self-employment option, or as we call it, a person company, like one person, one company. They don't have that. So we realize that most of the countries and most of the labor laws are missing on that one. So with the option for you to rent a company or put yourself under a certain payroll, you can that way stay compliant and at the end of the day save for the future, because that's what we all like to do. Not just that, but in many cases, in many countries, I will include mine in this case, you cannot have the main benefit, which is health insurance. And we have a lot of those people that are earning, they're working for companies abroad, but at the end of the day, they don't enjoy any benefit. So one of the ways to do that is by setting up yourself under an EOR and take that income. What we do, actually, we step in as an employer, and yeah, you have a friend.
Okay, so which means in this situation, they don't have to open an entity. We will employ them as if they are an employee of Native Teams. So the remittances will be remitted as a staff of Native Teams. All right, thank you. Nicola, Babajide, I have to admit, this was very foreign to me when I joined Native Teams because it's not something we see, it's not conversant in Nigeria at all. We expect companies to pay your salaries. We do not know that there is something like company as a service or employment as a service, right? Does this work in, of course, Nigeria recognizes EOR, but how popular is it? And is this something you think freelancers and more remote workers should explore?
This is because there's a lack of trust in the government system. And even when you want to do it, the hoops that you have to jump, it's like a lot. I remember when I was setting Safe Border up and I went to the tax station in Oyo to try and do like the registration and the taxes. And by the time they were like, oh, can you just give us like the list of payroll, how much people earn? I had to deny my name because the tax manager on the station could not believe that someone was earning that much. And so these are some of the challenges and problems because like even when you want to be a model citizen too as well, like we finally did the entire registration too, and you found out that every 24th the tax office was calling our office just to check off on how we were doing, if we were okay, because we're like 15 people and we're pulling that amount in taxes on a monthly basis too as well. And so these are some of the things that like happen in Nigeria as a whole, but it is necessary for you to actually pay taxes, especially the fact that you live in the country and while the amenities might not be many, you still make use of these amenities too as well. And so even outside the taxes, it's things around your retirement savings. It's things about your HMO too as well, like your health and medical, like being able to get access to quality HMO. While you have some HMO providers who have started selling individual plans, those individual plans are still not as high quality as what you would get or obtain from when you are under a company too as well. Like, that's when you start to hear that your glasses limit is 20,000. Meanwhile, someone who is under a company has a glasses limit of like 70K. And so these are where some of those issues then now start to come out. And aside from just the salary, there are so many other things, especially as an employee, like I did mention the pension, you have the health medical record too as well. And you're now beginning to have some of the things that government is now tying to this thing. Like, if you want to get access to foreign exchange, if you're traveling or you want to go to school, you need to go through the PTA system too as well. And now they are now asking for your tax clearance certificate for this. So automatically you're making or you're excluding yourself from your own benefits.
You do not pay your taxes. Yeah.
Because you don't want to do the right thing or remit the right things too as well. And I doubt the reason why many people don't want to pay is because they don't just want to pay. It's just the hurdle and the hoops that many individuals have to go through in like paying all of these things. Yes, like, so you'll be the one every month, you will be the one to have to calculate your taxes. So these are where the things now really come. Every month you sit down and then calculate your taxes, you start to ask. And a lot of people are not necessarily aware of like the tax system or even how you structure your payroll, that gets you the better benefits as an employee. So if you're telling someone, oh, okay, when you're doing your tax system and this is the basic housing, transportation, and others, they will be like, huh, what is that? But like in every payroll system, you have those line items that has a certain amount of money to it. And the implication of like how much is allocated to those line items has direct implications to your taxes and has direct, well, not taxes anymore because now Lagos State government taxes everything, but it has direct implications to what your pension will look like, and even to your taxes, because more pension means lesser taxes that you typically will pay as an individual. And so the reason why I know this is because like I worked in HR, I've set up a payroll system before, and if I was going to actually file my taxes, I can do that by myself. But many people don't necessarily know this, and this is not public domain knowledge that is out there. So if when people say, should I advise or ask for my advice, thankfully Nicola went first, because I would have said, you just have to go through the hard things, but now I'll just say, go and use native teams. That's like that's what I'll just like.
Thank you for the vote of confidence, Babajide. So for remote workers, freelancers, of course, the goal for most remote workers is to be able to travel across the world, apply for Malta digital nomad visa, go to UK, and it will be better if you get the FX at the government rate. So now if you need that, except you want to go the black market rate, but if you need that, then you have to find a way to have been remitting your taxes. And like you said, this is not something that a random person on the streets can do. So if you want someone or a company that can take away all of this stress for you at an amount that you can even barely recognize, it's not, I want to say it's not up to one bottle of Macallan, Babajide. So so you can just come to us at Native Teams. We do not just work with companies, we also work with individuals. So employment as a service, company as a service for individuals, so that you don't have to do, I see what people do now, they register a business, a company in their name, right? But the truth is, very soon the government will ask you, what is the income for this company? You have to file tax returns and all of this. So why not just go through the employment as a service option, where you get employed under a company, they remit everything. You literally choose how much salary you want to. We don't choose for you. You tell us, this is how much I want to be paying myself per month, and I want you to be remitting my tax, my pension, my NHF according to this. I mean, our time is fast spent, and to be honest, I do not want to keep us beyond the agreed terms, but I kind of have a feel that we may have one or two, that we may have one or two questions from people joining us. So I see Q&A. The person who said, still trying to understand the freelancer route of payments. I'm hoping that we have answered this now. So if you're a freelancer and you want to receive payment and also be compliant, you can come to us at Native Teams. We have the remote plan that can handle that for you. Where can we meet Nicola in person? I mean, if you want to travel to Macedonia, yes, but of course you have to be using Native Teams first for Nicola to see you, even though you're in Macedonia. But if you're interested in using Native Teams and perhaps actually meeting Nicola, you should talk to me after the call. But like I said, you have to use Native Teams first. In the absence of further questions, Babajide, Nicola, Toyosi, any last words? I feel like there should be something like, if your company is not paying your tax, go and meet your Jora on Twitter and report them, and Lagos State government to come and carry them, right? But any last words from you guys before we call it a day? It's already 7 p.m. Okay, Babajide.
All right. So it's important to set the right structure as a business in everything around payroll, remittance, deductions too as well, because it does have huge implications for you if you are caught being non-compliant. And so rather than kick the can further, today is a good day to actually start putting the right steps and processes in place for you to actually do that. And as an individual, for you to ensure that you have those benefits and you continue to maintain those benefits too as well. And I like the idea. People say Jackpot, they want to like migrate, relocate, all that. But then, there are things with habits, and habits are very, very important. So if you know that that's the route you want to go to, even if you might be in a dysfunctional system, start building the habits of paying taxes, because when you go there,
You have to pay your
the
taxes.
implications are worse than what you would expect. So it's very, very important that you start to build those habits of like paying your taxes, doing all the right statutory deductions and remittances, because it's very important.
All right. Thank you very much, Babajide. Just to add to that one, like Toyosi told us, you can negotiate. So perhaps it's a good time to go and start negotiating before Lagos State government comes to knock on your door. Toyosi, what do you have to tell us?
Okay, thank you. It's been a wonderful session. So I'm just going to add to what Babajide has said. It's important to actually structure your payroll, right? To optimize for seamless process on your payroll, and to be compliant. I mean, at the end of each year, it's okay to actually do like a bit of reconciliation or review of the entire year, and just know where you are lagging behind and which you what are the steps you need to do to correct some of the anomalies that you noticed over the years. And so another thing is, I think I like what Native Team is bringing on board currently. And as you were talking, right, I think I saw your tweet some days ago, and I looked at it and I'm like, oh, employment as a service. And I'm like, okay. So it's like outsourcing, but in reverse, right? So what we currently have is we have outsourcing outfits who basically approach companies, who hire for you, then they bring in, and then you see that they don't pay the outsourced staff well, or they do some, they cut corners in terms of compliance to all of these things, and then becomes a problem when you need them to be compliant, right? And but what Native Teams is bringing on board is actually nice, because then you have some level of confidence that okay, I'm the one basically paying these guys to be their employee. So there's a higher level of obligation to me, and if I can basically question them in a way that I can question my employer, right? In the sense of the word.
Yeah.
Right. So it's actually, and I get to enjoy all the benefits of an employee while still working as a freelancer. So it's like, enjoying the best of both worlds as a freelancer and as an employee. So it's a great one. Well done to the team.
Thank you, Toyosi. I mean, at this point, I feel like I should sign you on to Native Teams, because you took that right out of my mouth. But thank you. Last words from Nicola.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I would say that I'm really happy that we had the opportunity to educate people on how to not get the white sticker on their door. And I'm really happy that we together can be part of something that we are just not another SaaS software. We're not just selling something that, I don't know, will help me with my workflow, but we are actually helping people to understand something that it cannot be learned at schools, something that real life helps you realize, and sometimes even too late, and that we can make the world available for everybody. So that part where we say the borderless employment and compliance is probably my favorite. So yeah, I will suggest everybody that has any further questions to reach out to me, Jessica. I think that you shared a link, and also we are always open for free consultancy calls. So that's something that I would love to do, and I know, Jessica, that you're great at those. So. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicola. From what Nicola said, what came to my mind as a marketing ad: secure your future. Secure your future. Secure your Jackpot plans. If you know you plan to travel next year, you better come sign up with me, so that by the time you're ready, you can just, you just gingerly go and get your Form A, right? So guys, if you're here, freelancer, remote worker, employers, please let us take the stress away from you. I give you one invoice. I handle all of these things across the countries that you are in. Guys, thank you very much for making time out of your absolutely busy schedule. Nicola is even 1 hour ahead of us, so I had to beg him, to work outside of his work. And we all know that the guys from EU don't work outside their work. Nicola, I'm not paying you for extra time today, but thank you. I really appreciate that you're here with us. Babajide, thank you so much. It's amazing to have you here and share your wealth of experience. Toyosi, it was great having you here, right? Because you gave us that large number of people and how it looks like to try to manage them in terms of their payment and payroll. Thank you very much, guys. Of course, the panelists, I'll be reaching out to you. Our attendees, if you have any questions, after this, we are going to send you a recording of this so that you can, listen to it or share it with your employer if you feel they need to hear this, really. If you also have additional questions, you can respond to that email, and then we can, like Nicola said, we do free consulting. We can discuss with you and see how we can help you, both as an individual and as a company. That marketing line, secure your future, is very important. Secure your future. Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. I'll just play some little music for people who want to stay and listen to my Spirals music. But if you don't have, I think we can call it a night. Thank you very much. I am still Jessica, your humble host.
Online, they were me and giving me consign. Yeah, I'm giving you cellular. Wait, that's what it is. Yes, sir. I'm hoping you okay. We got to party tonight. Let it just stay behind. Yeah, me and you, they like that's like that. Jazzy, my guy, don't be Zaza. Transfer yourself, be my guy. I know it's my guy, my guy. Everyone know it's enough. So I call your name and ask me who you are. My guy, my guy. Keep it on my guy, my guy. And you keep alive. He has to have me, she's not good. She beats on the